So, good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Fitzgerald from Reading Group Guides, a website from the Book Report Network, and I am the host of the Book Reporter Talks to Video podcast series. And I am delighted to have so many of you here with us tonight. Welcome to our Bookaccino Live Book Group. This is our 40th Bookaccino Live Book Group, and we couldn't be more happy to be inviting as our guest this evening Alan Levi, and we will be talking about his best-selling debut novel, Theo of Golden. And we are so excited about listening to this book, listening to him talk about this book, and hearing the questions that you have about it as well. So let me start that I was late to come to this book. I listened to it over the holidays, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. It was the kind of thing where I kept coming back to the audio and I kept coming back to want to hear more and the story. And what I talk about is the ending and then the ending and then the ending, because there were three beautiful endings to the book and what I felt like when I finished with it. It's a New York Times bestseller, which I don't need to tell any of you. And it's really was one of the most talked about books of 2025. It has over 500,000 copies sold to date, and talk of it not waning at all as we move through 2026. And in fact, what's very interesting is, as I was hearing from you, how many of you have bought multiple copies of this book. It's a book you've treasured and you've given, and we just love moments like this. As you can see, this is the largest event that we've ever hosted, and let's go over what the format this evening is going to be. First, let me note that we are assuming that everyone has read the book. This is not the kind of book where you just book group, we just show up with the wine. This is not just about the wine. It's about the conversation. We are going to talk spoilers. So if you want to zip off now because you haven't finished, it's okay. We're recording this for video and podcast, and you can zip on and watch it later on. I'm going to begin with a couple of questions for Alan, and then some of our readers will be joining us live on screen to ask their questions. And then I'm going to be sharing some questions from people who are more camera shy or not available at the time and didn't want to appear on camera. So I'm going to be their voice for this evening. Then we're going to be taking questions from the audience. And it's really important that you keep in mind that if you've got a question for the audience, you've got to share it in the Q&A down below. Our fabulous editorial director, Tom Donadio, is our voice of God, as we call him, not being irreverent here. But Tom will go and he will be voicing over questions later on. So you've got something, jump in there and, go do that. Chat, once again, let us know where you're from. We always add up at the end and want to see how many states were represented. If you're out on the live stream, if you want to drop it into comments down below, we'll be looking there as well. That housekeeping behind us. Let's welcome Alan to the stage. Alan, we so appreciate you joining us tonight. First of all, congratulations on all your success. I mean, it has been quite an achievement of what you've done, starting out with self-publishing, being picked up by a traditional publisher, and then from there, just the happiness that people are talking about after reading this book and the good feeling about it. We've got a lot of questions from very enthusiastic readers. I was getting questions till the minute I logged on before.
Great.
And I was like, okay. So I want you to start with an origin story. What drew you to write Theo of Golden?
Yeah, Carol, first of all, let me say thank you for letting me be with you this evening. As you have already mentioned, this began as a self-publish project. And I would have been over the moon if we could have sold 100 copies, honestly, because I didn't write this to be published. I just wanted to see if I had the muscle to write a long piece of fiction. And so the success of the book is all due to the kindness of the people who will be in the room with us tonight. So let me address myself to you. Thank you so much for reading the book, for honoring me with your time. And for those of you who have shared it, thank you for saying nice things about it. I'm convinced that that has been really the seedbed of all the success that the book has had, and we're so honored. So where did the book come from? I have long wanted to try my hand at a novel. I was a songwriter for 20 plus or minus a few years. I was a lawyer for a few years. So I have worked with words all of my life, and I have been an avid reader, not a terribly good reader, but a delighted and avid reader for most of my adult life. And I thought someday I would like to try my hand at a novel. And I've had a story in the back of my mind for a long time. but I didn't feel like I was quite ready to tackle it. One day I was in a coffee shop down in my hometown of Columbus, Georgia. It's a coffee shop that I frequent a lot, mostly because there are 92 portraits on the walls of the shop, all done by a dear friend of mine. He is a master of portraiture. The coffee is good, but I love to go to the shop to look at the portraits. One day I was in the shop. I was waiting for my order to be prepared and was perusing the portraits as I had done many times before. And the idea came to me, wouldn't it be fun to buy all of these one at a time and give them to their rightful owners? And that became the genesis of the story. I started turning that idea over in my mind. That day, I bought 4 of the portraits and took them home with me. And I started writing scenes. I didn't have a storyline. I had no narrative arc or any plot in mind. But I started writing scenes, imagining someone purchasing a portrait, finding the subject of the portrait, and bestowing it on him or her. And once I had several of those scenes written and was enjoying the process, I thought there might actually be a story here. Uh, so I gave it a go, and it was done in fits and starts. It was extremely inefficient, the way that I wrote, because I had never done anything like this before. I quit numbers of times and said, I'm done. I don't have the muscle for it,
Right.
but stuck with it, and we ended up with Theo of Golden.
Ended up with Theo and Golden from there. It's so interesting because there's always the nucleus, the idea, but then
Yeah,
where you go with it and where you run with it from there is a really big moment.
yeah.
Someone was asking down in the chat, if the people who aren't in the room tonight, if the show is being live streamed on YouTube. So we knew we were going to have a big crowd tonight. So if your friends, if they just go onto this page immediately, they will be sent there. If not, if you want to share with them, you just go to the Book Report Network and is up there right on the page. It's like the Book Report Network is streaming. We just, checked it out. But this is new for everybody, so I'm jumping in there with that. I'm going to have Debbie Moore join us. Debbie's been a part of most, if not all, absolutely all of our book group discussions. And today she's in Myrtle Beach, where she says it's chilly, but believe me, it's colder where we are. So, Debbie, if you want to join us, I know you've always got great questions. Great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Yes, and it's not quite as cold here as it is in upstate New York, so I'll take Myrtle Beach cold. First of all, Mr. Levi, I loved your book.
Thank you.
It was just such a wonderful story. How did you choose the people to whom Theo bestowed the portraits and the number of bestowals he would make? Do you have a favorite?
Debbie, first of all, thank you for reading the book, and thank you for the question. I think the honest answer is that my selection was pretty arbitrary at the start. When I was just writing scenes with no idea of whether or not there would even be a story, I was just trying to develop some kind of rapport between the bestower and those who were receiving their portraits. But it did occur to me that it would be nice to have a good cross section represented by the portraiture. And so I tried to choose what would be a good cross section of our community and a good cross section of the portraits that were on the walls. I don't know that I had a favorite moment of bestowal. I like Ellen a lot. I like the interaction between Theo and her and the friendship that developed out of that. But as far as choosing, particular recipients of portraits, at least at the start, it was just let me get my legs under me, let me write a bunch of scenes. And there were some that I did write where there were gifts made that did not make it into the book. But I was satisfied with the ones that I had a good cross section of the community, and for readers, people would hopefully be able to find themselves in one or other of the characters.
Yeah, they were all really wonderful.
Did you have a favorite?
I did. I liked Kendrick.
Yeah, I love Kendrick.
He was in fact, one of my favorite line in your whole book is when he's talking to Derek.
Yeah.
And he says, I hope when he's talking about the man who killed Kendrick's wife, and he
Yeah.
says, I hope he'll know somebody looked at him and didn't see a thing or an idea or a label, but a man with a soul. I hope he'll know somebody saw his face.
Yeah. I
And
love
I
that.
thought that's so important today,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah. I
don't
love
think
that. Yeah.
there's so few people that are doing that, and we forget about that.
Thank you. Yes.
Um,
Thank
I listened to the audiobook and then
you.
bought the print book because I knew I would go back to the book again and again. And the person who narrated Theo was perfect.
Great.
But how did you decide to make him Portuguese?
Yeah.
And do you have a connection to the Douro River and Portugal?
Yeah, great question. And let me say amen to your endorsement of David Morse as the reader. Uh, David and I talked before he went in to record the project, and I knew his voice from movie acting. We all know his face probably from the movies. But as I listened to a lot of voices in the selection process, his was the one that we landed on, and there was a warmth to it. There was a bit of a rasp to it that I found very attractive and engaging. And the feedback has just been phenomenal. And I can't say thank you enough to David Morse for the job that he did. As far as my connection to Portugal, or my selection of Portugal as the home of Theo, I have no connection to the country. I had never been there. To my knowledge, I had never read anything by a Portuguese author, but I knew I wanted Theo to be an artist. I wanted to keep that under wraps until late in the book. And I thought if I made him a Frenchman or a Dutchman, or even from Germany, someone might figure out this old man is probably an artist. But I could not think of a single artist from Portugal. I can think of explorers, but I could not think of any artists from Portugal. And so I thought that will be his place of origin. And there's something that to me is just rather romantic about the Iberian Peninsula and that part of Europe. And the more that I played with the idea of Portugal, the more right it felt. Once I started writing and realized that I was going to really tackle a long piece of fiction, I went to Portugal for a couple of weeks with no itinerary. I landed in Lisbon and spent a few days. A nephew of mine went with me, and then we went up to the northern part of the country where the Douro runs and Porto is located. And that's where I felt like I found Theo and his birthplace and the country that he would have known as a little boy and as a young man. And the more that I developed the story, the better and better I felt about my choice of Portugal as the place. But it was really rather arbitrary at the start, but it gelled into what I now believe was the perfect choice of a place for Theo to come from.
Well, after reading your description of it and Theo's life as a young man, it's like, okay, my bucket list just has a new location on it. It's
Good.
definitely Porto and the Douro River. So
Great.
thank you very much. I'm hope you're writing something else. I can't wait to read it, whatever it is. And
Thank you.
you certainly can tell that you put your heart into this book. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for reading it with your heart. I can tell you did that as well. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie. Great to see you as always. Theo, Alan, listen to me, Theo. Alan, I want to make sure that you write off that trip to Portugal.
I
mean,
did.
you
did have this book come from. I just want to be perfectly sure.
Thank you, American taxpayers. I did write it off.
So now we have Crystal Baker joining us from Sedalia, Missouri, who's got a really fun story, and she's got somebody with her tonight.
Yes, this is my son, Zeke, and he's 14. We connected on this book. I was reading it because I was hosting a book club, and he kind of caught in on it and actually asked for his own copy. So we ended up getting, and then we started rereading it together. And that's kind of where my question comes from. I didn't notice it first time. Our second time in, we started noticing that a lot of the prominent characters are subtly kind of introduced in the very beginning in very kind of general, generic, vague ways that, again, I didn't catch until I reread it. And I thought about that. It really kind of mirrors real life, how we go about and we meet these people we don't really know. But with the time and intention, as Theo did with the people he got to know,
Yeah.
that's when we really dig deep. We get to know the characters in the book and in real life. Was that the intention on how you introduced them, that subtlety? Was that your intention to mirror kind of how that really works in real life?
You
Or was there
know,
something?
intention might be too strong a word. I knew that I was dropping hints of what was to come throughout the book, but that was probably more serendipitous than intentional. But I did as quickly as I could in the story. I wanted people to engage with the humanity of the story. There was a wonderful book that came out about the same time that Theo did by David Brooks. It's a nonfiction book called How to Know a Person. I don't know if many of you have read it. I would highly recommend it. But he was talking about the art of conversation. And he said maybe the best place to practice this art is maybe a bench. And I think that he in nonfiction was after the same thing that I was after with Theo, just the engagement of people with one another in person. There's a lot of incarnation as a theme in the book. And so early on, when I was just dropping hints of who might enter the story later or at some point, it was just to create a sense this is a real community of real people. It's a neighborhood of sorts, except that the people don't know their neighbors yet. And so when Theo entered the scene, he kind of became the gel that drew them together.
Excellent. Thank you.
Zeke, thank you for reading the book too. I'm very honored.
I love
Thank you.
that. Zeke, share with your friends. Share with your friends. Share with your
Right.
teacher. You know,
He's already has.
we have to find more books. I feel like my son read through middle grade and then he got to high school and they started assigned reading and he stopped being a reader. And I mean, we had somebody who read a book a day. And I feel like if we can find the right book to connect people with, to be having really good conversations, especially these times, really important to have the conversation.
Yeah.
We're not doing a lot of that right now. So
Right.
congratulations. Thank you both for joining us. Glad you
Thanks.
jumped on. Susan was going to join us tonight. She's from College Station, Texas. So I'm going to go with her question. She actually said, we've talked about how you got the concept of gifting these portraits. Do you actually practice gifting in your real life? And she said she actually gives gifts and item to people every day, which I think is a wonderful concept.
Yeah.
For years, I've kept a log of set giving and the gifting that I've done and what follows. And in all my years of gifting this particular item to strangers every day, I've only had 2 people refuse them. So, Susan, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. There you are. I'm sorry I asked your question.
No, it is okay. I just popped in.
Very
I've been
good.
struggling with internet here in Texas. So,
Susan, thank you for the question.
oh,
And
no, thank you.
and blessings to you for being a giver. To answer your question, uh, hopefully without being self-congratulatory, I love to give. Uh, we all know the ancient text that says it is more blessed to give than to receive. The more that I practice that in my life, the truer it becomes. And I have learned that the gifting can actually be very, very small tokens, small things, some more substantial. Um, but Theo was certainly a man who celebrated the gift and the beauty of giving. And his generosity, I think, really became one of the things that drew so many people to him in the story and held them in his thrall. But my hope too, Susan, is that as people read the book, they would obviously enjoy the story just for the sake of the story. But gosh, wouldn't it be great if a piece of fiction might lead us somehow to be more generous, not just with our money and such, but with our time, our attentiveness. Maybe that was the greatest gift that Theo gave, was just the fact that he was willing to sit and listen to people's stories without distraction. But yes, I love to give. I would not dare tell you any stories along those lines because I'm under a mandate, as we all are, not to let our left hand know what our right hand is doing. We're not supposed to be braggadocious about our giving. It's always a lot happier if we just keep it to ourselves. But Susan,
Well,
for being that kind of person.
well, thank you. But I also want to say that it's very clear to me that you are Theo. I mean, after reading just the first couple of chapters, it was very clear to me that every cell in your body is about love.
Mm,
I mean, that jumped off the pages. And it's like, I got to know this man. And then to be given this opportunity to actually be able to connect with you. I mean, this is better than Christmas.
oh,
I love that.
thank
I
you.
love that.
Thank you. Susan, let
No,
me say this. I would not dare claim to be Theo. I would sure like to be. But whenever I inscribe books now, it is usually with a little note that says, with thanks for the Theo in you. And I do have a belief that in all of us, the better angels of our nature look a lot like Theo, and we are all capable, as he said, of saintliness, of being generous, of being kind, of being attentive, of being respectful. And Carol, to your point earlier, at least in some circles, that seems to be in short supply, especially now, but probably always. And maybe the Theo in us can push back against that and uh, again bring some beauty and some kindness to the world. Susan, thank you for that.
you're welcome. So I know I think I'm only limited to one question, but I'm going to take liberty to step out here and say, I hear that coffee shop that is in the book actually does exist.
It does.
And so next time I'm in Georgia, I'm going to go by in hopes that you're going to be there.
Well, maybe we can figure out a way to make that happen. I love to meet people down at the shop. I will say this, that the coffee shop in the book is a bit different than the one that is in Columbus. The one in the book is a bit larger. It has windows. The one in Columbus does not. But the portraits are there, and they are the jewels of the place to me. I was down there just a few days ago, and I had a great conversation with the owner of the shop and with the portrait artist, my dear friend Gary Pound, and we have had more fun watching this book grow wings and end up in the places it has ended up. And the portrait artist has gotten a good bit of work from it, and the owner of the shop has had a lot of traffic come in to buy coffee. So it's been a win, 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 and we've really enjoyed it.
Well, that's awesome. So thank you. I will shut up, even though I would really just like to ignore everybody else and just keep you all to myself. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for coming on. I'm actually sitting here thinking that this would be a great, if it hasn't happened already, CBS Sunday morning episode. Like, can I script it out for them? Because I
Please.
can see exactly how the show would go. So I'm just jumping in there with that, kind of a
Okay.
feeling. Next, we're going to have Debbie Briscoe, who wait a second. Yep, Debbie Briscoe is going to join us. She's a retired English teacher from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And you're going to go ahead with your question. And Susan, if you could just turn off your camera at this point and do that.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Debbie.
Debbie,
Hi,
welcome.
how are you? I
I'm
am
good,
so
thanks.
excited to be part of this.
Thank you.
And I think I would definitely teach your book rather than 1984 this year if I was still teaching.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
What do you teach? What do you teach?
I was English 12,
Okay, great.
and I was a literacy specialist before that. But what my question is, it came from chapter 8. I highlighted this line,
Okay.
but who shall I do next?
Mm,
And that was a very important line for me. It got
Yeah.
me to really thinking about your definition of goodness
hmm
and the journey that led you to your own definition of goodness
hmm
and what impact that had on who you did next, especially the less than savory characters.
Right.
Some were very savory, lovely people, but
Right.
then you had a few in there, like that poor girl
Yeah.
who had been abused by her husband. How did you pick them?
Yeah.
Especially 92 of them.
Yeah. First of all, I would say, Debbie, that we probably all, I hope we all know people like that in our lives. They may be very close to us. They might just be acquaintances. But I thought that the inclusion of, again, of a good cross section of humanity would make for a much more interesting story, and it would fill Theo out as a character. If he had only chosen to live in his silo, to use that popular term from today, he would have been a pretty boring character to me. The fact that he was able to reach down, to reach out, to reach up, made him much more expansive, his humanity. As far as my own definition of goodness, there's really no way that I could talk about that without invoking some reference to my faith. And I know we're here to talk about the book, but I am a Christian, and that's what defines goodness to me. That's where my definition of love comes from. I heard something the other day, or read something the other day by C.S. Lewis. He said, love is not merely a feeling, it is a deep unity maintained by the will, deliberately strengthened by habit, and reinforced by the grace we ask and receive from God. And to me, that is a good description of goodness as well. And to Susan's question, generosity. It is something that we choose to do. It's an act of the will. It is maintained by discipline. We practice it. Theo did that every time he did a bestowal. And I'm sure that, I'm sure because I know Theo well, that he was a man of prayer. And so his goodness was informed by all of that, an act of the will, an act of discipline, and it was the thing that kind of unified everything else about his life. I work with a lot of people from a cross section of socioeconomic stations in life. I work with a program for young men who are in foster care in my community on one night a week. I go to a local high school 3 days a week in the morning just to open the door and to greet kids. I've been doing that for 25 years. I read to second graders every Thursday morning. I've been doing that for 25 years or so. I attend a couple of churches. One is an African-American congregation. The other is more kind of middle class, normal, run-of-the-mill, what's the word? I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just people that look like me. But by virtue of doing that and by exposing oneself, I think, to different cross sections of our communities, and I live in a community, my hometown is about a fifth the size of the audience here tonight. It's about 1,200 people. It's very small. Our county has about 40,000 people. And one might be tempted to think that in a place like this, there would be no opportunity for cross-cultural engagement with people, or everybody looks the same. But you can encounter all manner of humanity in a county of 40,000 people, much less, a big city like many of you live in. But I will say this, I think that personally, I look for opportunities to spend time with, to hear stories from people who are not like me. To me, that's one of the benefits of traveling. A couple of years ago, I went to Pakistan for a brief trip, just 2 or 3 weeks. It's a place that I have prayed for, and I have been involved with some ministries there over the years. And it's about as far from America as you can possibly get. I lived in Afghanistan in the mid-2000s for a summer. And that was another opportunity to meet people whose worldview, whose religious persuasion, whose socioeconomic status was drastically different than anything that I encounter here. And in creating Theo, I wanted to create a character that might encourage us to maybe be less fearful of one another, more willing to engage, more willing to sit down and hear stories and exchange perspectives. And I think that what I have taken from that myself over the years is that no matter how different we are from one another, there is an inclination, a desire for goodness that abides in all of us. I call it the better angels of our nature, to hearken back to President Lincoln's phrase. But I think in all of us, there is something that connects with goodness and truth and beauty. And Theo, I hope, put that on display for us in some small way.
I love that response. Thank you so much. I'm a Methodist preacher's kid myself.
Okay.
And C.S. Lewis is someone I love to read and have enjoyed most of my life. And I was taking copious notes while you were speaking. We have book club tomorrow. Another question that's very deep. Do you like port wine?
I do happen to love port wine, and I always keep some close at hand. But I will make a confession, Debbie. I had never had port wine before I went to Portugal.
Neither have I. I've never had it before in my life.
So it was kind of a nice surprise. My nephew and I checked into a little Airbnb in Lisbon the first night, and they had a bottle in the room. And so we opened it and drank some and both liked it a lot. And then when we went to Porto, where they had the port cellars, we took a tour of all of the port cellars and I bought some books about it and drank a lot just because I was curious and really have developed a taste for it. I'm not a connoisseur by any stretch, but I love to have a glass of port, and I really like the moment that it set up in the book between Tony.
I love that part. That part is so wonderful.
Yeah,
even though Simone is my favorite character because I love his relationship with his cello.
Great.
Yes, I love that part. But yeah, thank you for that response. I do have loads of notes that I'm going to share with book club tomorrow. I'm so excited about that. Thank you.
Great. And thank your book club as well. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Joining us, Debbie. I really love what you said about you go and you read to the second grade and you go and you do these. They're not big things. They're not. It's going over to the school, being there at a certain time that they can expect you. And you sit down and you have these conversations with the children.
Right.
And then you get to see who they are and what they are. We have a little girl across the street from us and she likes books. Like I know. So she came over for Halloween and I gave her Halloween Bugs, which is this little like pop-up book. And she sat down on the front porch, opened the book, forgot about candy. She was about 2. And she said to her parents, go home. And they texted me a few minutes later. They said they'd read it to her 3 times. And those are the little moments. Those are the little tiny things that happen. And those are the ones we've got to treasure. Because
they're huge. And so, Carol, in the book, Theo draws on that little line of poetry from Wordsworth, little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love. Yes. We are all capable of that. My favorite writer maybe ever is a still living Kentucky farmer named Wendell Berry. I hope that many of you in the crowd here tonight know the writing of Wendell Berry. Some people don't take a shine to it because it's rather slow, but he's real big on character development. But he wrote an essay once, and I would invite everyone to find it. It's called Think Little.
Okay.
And the point that he makes is that a lot of times in the broader culture, and I would say it has particular relevance now, we have big problems and we think that the way to address them is with a big solution. And he says we would be much better off if we would think little. And the point that he makes is, for instance, let's say something with the environment. He said, rather than saving the planet, which is a big thing, what if all of us just covenanted or just made a personal commitment to save our quarter-acre lot? Think little. And the cumulative effect, of course, would be that we save the planet, so to speak. And so when it comes to neighborliness and things of that sort, we don't need some big festival to bring people together. We can just say, hey, would you come have some hamburgers with us next week?
Yeah.
And small things like that. Reading to a child. I mean, you and I both know there's no telling what that book, that moment will do to bend that little girl's life in a really beautiful direction.
Yeah. Or
so kudos to
giving
you.
a book. Think of someday giving a book because a book's the present.
Great stuff.
Like candy. Debbie, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
I have loved this so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. All the best.
Thanks.
Kelly Smith is joining us from Cleveland, Tennessee, where her book group, Wine and Wenches, is meeting tonight. So you have to love this. This is their book group. And
cheers!
Cheers to the book group that just happens to be meeting tonight. You
Theo.
can't make this up.
Tonight it's port. But we're so thrilled that you were able to be with us tonight at our book club. And I think you touched on this with the last question, but most interested in you talking us through your process in writing. So Theo, very much a Christ-like figure. Those who received the portraits, very much disciple-like.
Okay.
It's really not a religious book. I don't think that was necessarily the intention.
Right.
It's much broader and it has a much further reach. So just let us know your thinking. Talk us through what your thinking was.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll go back to my days as a musician. The first question that I always asked myself when I went to play a gig, and I played lots of different groups of people around the country, was who is the audience? And my song selection would typically reflect something about what I understood the audience to be. I would obviously do a much different set for a group of college students at a weekend gathering than I would for a Sunday evening church service in a small country town where I knew that most of the congregation might be rather elderly. So who's the audience? And when I was writing Theo, uh, I wanted to write a book that would connect with as many people as I possibly could. As I have mentioned, I am a Christian. I'm unashamed of that. I'm very grateful for it. But I realize not everybody in the world shares that perspective of life. And I wanted to write a story that everyone could enjoy and hopefully be blessed by in some way. I wanted to write something that would touch hearts across the spectrum. And so my reference to anything that, sounded religious or spiritual or specifically Christian were muted intentionally. But that's not because I'm ashamed of my faith. It's just because I wanted more people to be able to engage with the text. And the response.
Very accessible.
Say again?
Very accessible. Thank you.
Very accessible, exactly. And I've been gratified by the response. I mean, lots of people have written and they've asked the same question that you've asked. And some have said, I don't belong to any faith perspective. I'm so grateful that they've read the book and enjoyed it and taken something positive and I hope useful away from it. But yeah, I was very conscious of who I was writing to. There is a school of thought, and y'all are all familiar with it, that says that we do art for art's sake, as if the audience doesn't matter. William Faulkner famously said, that art is done, and we do it regardless of what anybody in the world thinks about it. I understand what he's saying, but as a writer myself, both as of music and now of prose, I want to write things that people can understand. And I do want to write things that will provoke thought and that might even tilt a heart, out of a place of darkness to a place of light. So I try to be very conscious of the fact that real people in real places are going to read, at least some people will read what I write. And I hope that I will continue to keep that, as a motif for everything that I do. Jesus himself told lots of stories. Sometimes they made specific references to deity, and sometimes they didn't at all. He talked about flowers and birds. He talked about beauty. He talked about kindness. And as we all know, people took the things that he said and ran in all sorts of different directions with them. But he could have spoken over everybody's heads, and he chose not to. He told stories that even second graders and maybe even 2-year-olds could understand. And I hope that Theo is a book. I hope that it's beautifully written. I wanted it to be nicely written, but more than that, I hope it would connect with people's hearts and engage them in a really profound way.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the gift.
Thank you for letting me come to your club tonight. I'm honored.
And I love the portraits. Do you
Let me
notice
see. Let me see.
the portraits on the windows? Do you love that?
I saw that.
We have
That is exactly what is in my glass tonight. That same bottle. Yes.
And now we know who is not celebrating dry January. This book club and Alan. There you go.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Lauren, and I hope I'm doing her right name correctly. Chamsky from Boise, Idaho. Do you get a theme that we're from across the country? Do you get that's what we're doing?
Love it.
Why did you have Theo wait to reveal his story to Asher until after his death? I'm sure readers have their theories, but I'd love to hear yours. And she also shares, thank you for this book. In a world where everyone has an agenda, I'm glad your agenda was love and humanity.
Yeah, thank you. The honest answer to the question is it just felt right. As I was writing and as I got toward the end, I really didn't know how the story was going to end. But as I worked, massaged, rewrote, edited, that was just the way the pieces fell on the page that seemed right, and I left it there. I've gotten a lot of pushback from the fact that poor Theo, had to die. But that felt like absolutely what had to happen at that point in the book. And again, I think that was at least partly an attempt on my part to make the world real. I didn't want the story to be so sweet that someone might read it, put it down, and say, "Well, yeah, but that is really fiction."
Right.
And I don't think that I would have been. I don't think I would have been subject to that accusation. I mean, early in the book, Tony's experience, Ellen's experience, Catherine Lesker's experience. There's so much hurt in the book, and there's a lot of death in the book before Theo ever dies. But to me, that was just the right way to kind of bring the dramatic tension to a point. And then those sweet moments were able to flow out of that. And I wanted there to be at least a touch of melancholy by the time the book ended, and the fact that Asher never got to engage with his father, other than somewhat superficially. I wanted that melancholy or that sense of longing to linger at the end of the story.
I also love that there's this moment, though, at the beginning where they said, we can rent you this apartment, but this particular, it's not regulation.
Right.
And like you're putting that in the back of your head, but you're really not paying attention. You're sitting there going, oh, what's the big deal? But then later on, it's because of this, which is the reason. So it's almost like it's because of somebody else's error somewhere along the way is the reason really that Theo died. It's because somebody else made a mistake at some point and that's the reason they were taking very carefully about, what to do this. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to go we have two questions about color, beginning with the color blue, which is coming from Judy Ross. From Long Island. And let me just see if okay, I'm going to ask her question for her. This is a really interesting question. She says, I'm a book club facilitator on Long Island, and I lead 9 separate groups each month.
Wow.
I usually let the groups suggest and select books. But this winter, I told, all capital letters, here comes Judy. There you are, Judy. There you are. You go for it, Judy. Sorry about that. I think you have to turn on your sound. Can you just turn on your sound?
Good.
That was my mistake. Sorry.
That's okay. First of all, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I lead 9 book clubs a month, and I generally let my groups pick their books. But when I read Theo the first time, I said, everybody, this is a book we're going to read. Okay. And I have gotten, thank you. Where did you find this? Thank you for bringing this book to me. That's number one. Okay. I've been taking notes throughout this whole thing. Let's see. I have a question, but that's not my regular question. Is Ellen cooperating in your next book? Because she's the favorite character of everybody. That's number one. Number two, in terms of whether this book was religious or not, I'm Jewish. Most of my book groups are made up of Jewish members, and nobody found it religious in the sense that they couldn't relate to it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, that was number 3. And the question, you mentioned the color blue, blue feathers, blue birds, blue shoes, blue paintings. What is the significance? Because Theo wore a green hat.
Right.
What's the significance of blue?
Yeah. Okay, Judy, honest answer. I like blue. It is a color of royalty, as you know. I mean, the Star of David is a blue star. And it is the color of royalty. Theo, of course, the name itself has reference to deity. And so there is this sense of elegance and royalty, I think, to the name and the character. But the truth of the matter is, I love the color blue. And once I dropped it in, I just thought I'm gonna drop it in some other places. But I think I put it in the book more hoping that readers would try to give it some significance rather than me attach some to it myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
hope that's not a disappointment. I should
no,
have
it's not.
really profound to say.
Nothing about this book is a disappointment. Is Ellen cooperating, and are we going to see her in a book soon?
I am doing everything in my power to get Ellen to cooperate, and there are times that I feel like it's working. So Judy, I started about a year, gosh, almost 2 years ago now, trying to write the Ellen story. And I have gone through 4 drafts of the book, and they are almost entirely different from one another. And I still have not settled on the story that has grabbed me yet, but I think I'm getting there. And yesterday, there were 2 different moments when I was writing that I cried. And for me, that's always a sign that the story is it's scratching something down inside me. And if it does that for me, then maybe it will do that with somebody else. I love her as a character. She's really complicated. It's hard, honestly, to write about homelessness, not having ever experienced that myself. And I will have to admit that I feel a bit pretentious even trying. Um, but but I know a number of homeless people. I have worked in some homeless ministries over the years, and I don't feel like I don't have license to give it a try.
Oh,
But I make you this promise: I'm giving it my best effort, and if she doesn't rise from the ashes, it's not because I'm not trying.
okay. And what I also wanted to say was I read The Last Sweet Mile.
Oh,
So anybody who has not read your memoir about your brother,
yeah.
you must read this book because it is beautiful.
Thank you.
And was going with something else. Oh, congratulations on achieving #3 of the New York Times
Thank
Sunday
you.
bestseller list.
Yeah,
I have
thank
been
you.
sharing that online. From a self-published book
Mm,
to a comment by Oprah
yeah.
to the New York Times bestseller #3 and going up.
And then Judy, best of all. I mean, you got the Oprah piece, you've got the New York Times piece, but best of all, I get to spend a Tuesday evening with Judy Ross and the Book Report Network and thousands of people who I wish I could invite into my home just to talk for hours and hours with. Thank you for leading nine book clubs. That's amazing to me.
Yes,
And I assume that is driven by pure affection.
yes,
Yeah, you love it.
I do.
Okay, one final point, just FYI.
Yes.
My grandfather, Abraham Levi, was a Jewish man, and I am so proud of that blood that runs in my veins, and I'm doubly proud that this book will be published in Hebrew in Israel.
I love you.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that, right?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Judy.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. And thank you for talking about blue. I love that. It's beside me, just my favorite color. Um, Beverly Shelley from Pawleys Island, South Carolina, asked us to please discuss the significance of the color gold in the story as well, including the name of the town and other references to the color. I love these questions because
Yeah,
when you have a conversation like this with people really from across the country, which
yeah,
was what we're doing tonight, to
yeah,
hear what they're each bringing. Like I'm in 9 book clubs. I'm with my book club tonight. I
yeah.
I read with my son. I did this. That's a real, but to the gold color gold. So
Right.
golden and gold, you're
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Don't you just love the power of books and stories?
Yeah.
It's just such a marvelous thing. Um, okay, full disclosure. When I was writing the book, a lot of the names and even some of the adjectives that I chose, colors being one of them, uh, were totally arbitrary. They were placeholders. There was something about the word golden
Hmm.
uh, that I'm not quite sure why I landed on that as the name of the city. But once I landed on that, and then in Portugal discovered that the Douro River, Douro means golden. There
Hmm.
was a bit of symmetry there that I
Hmm.
thought was nice to play with. Gold, again, we know is a royal color. We all know the wedding band, the litany that we hear at weddings all the time about what gold means. It just seemed right.
Hmm.
And It seemed to fit. It seemed to cast a glow on the story that was appropriate. I will say this rather interestingly. I wrote the book and finished it and had totally forgotten in the process that the artist, my friend who inspired this thing in the first place, who did the original portraits, is the grandson of a man named Theo Golden. Yeah, and his mother, who was also an artist, Barbara Pound, was a dear friend of mine. So I sometimes tongue-in-cheek give him credit for the title of the book. But the truth of the matter is, I just found some words. I stuck them in the book early in the writing process, thinking at some point I'm going to come back and reconsider every name, probably change a bunch of them. But Golden and Theo for sure.
Golden and Theo stayed there.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did.
It's like yeah, and it's absolutely perfect. Beverly also asks, Theo's curious about the bookstore's name, but the backstory is never explained in any of the dialogue. Was that intentionally left unanswered, and if so, why? So there's something in the bookstore name that is not really explained.
Yeah, Verbivore.
Verbivore.
And I do think there's a little ditty in the book. I think I'm remembering this correctly. He wrote a little poem, didn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't Tony write a poem? And forgive me that I can't recite it, but he talks about herbivores eat Brussels sprouts, carnivores eat birds.
Somebody says love meat. Somebody's writing in
Casuivores eat dollar bills, and verbivores eat words.
There you go.
And so it was just a name that presumably Tony came up with, just a play on, the things that we eat and digest and, make us what we are. But other than that, it was just, to me, I thought it was kind of a clever name for a bookstore. I actually had a long list of names for the coffee shop. I didn't know which one to choose. And I had written a couple of chapters about the coffee shop that I took out of the book before we finished it. And same with the bookstore. I had a long list of names for the bookstore, but Verbivore was what I ended up on.
That totally works. And somebody just mentioned the golden hour. I just saw real quickly in the chat, the most perfect hour of the day for shooting pictures is the golden hour.
Right.
So another play on the golden.
Let me say this too, Carol. All of us in the room tonight are verbivores.
Verbivores, exactly.
We eat words. We love words. And, in the form of books, whether we listen to them or read them, we love beautifully well-used words.
Well-constructed sentences, as we say, well-constructed sentences.
Yeah.
Lisa Randall, I'm just trying to figure out if Lisa's here. She wasn't here earlier. Lisa, if you're here, pop on. If not, I will ask your question from Reno, Nevada. And I think I'm on. She says, how did you pick Quinta Descova? Okay, I'm really bad at words. Yeah. Quinta Descova as the winery where he worked as a teenager. I'm pronouncing that terribly.
Yeah.
I'm heading to Porto in September, and I'm thinking of adding it to my itinerary. So
yeah, don't. It does not exist.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Quinta, of course, is the word for farm or vineyard. And I'm pretty sure I made that up.
Okay.
I was real careful not to use any trade names in the text, just because I didn't know legally if I could. Okay. And let me go back way to the beginning. When I started writing Theo of Golden, again, it was just a personal challenge. I did not intend to publish a book. I wanted to see if I could write something, and I did. And when I finished it, I retired it. I patted myself on the back and thought, okay, I can do this. And when the time comes that I ever want to write that story that's been in my mind for decades, I think I can do it. But some friends of mine who knew I was dabbling with it asked for permission to read it, and they read it. They said, please do something with it. So I polished it up a bit, and it's the book that we now have read. I wish I had had an editor to work with me, but unfortunately I didn't. So I just kind of slogged through it myself. But when I was, for instance, dreaming up a name for the vineyard where Theo worked as a little boy, I didn't know if I would ever publish it, but if I did, I thought, I don't want to get in trouble. And I didn't have a team working with me who could research that sort of thing. Maybe as a lawyer, I could have taken some pains to do it, but I just grabbed something that sounded authentic.
Right.
And there it is. Yeah.
Okay, so Lisa, you're on for finding your own recommendation when you go there.
That's right.
Lenny Warrens is going to join us from Bald Head Island, North Carolina. I love this, from across the country. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Let's see, Lenny, there you are. I see you. Yes, hi. Can you turn your sound on?
There, you can hear me, right?
Yep. Hey, Lonnie.
Hi there. I'm so glad to be here. And I just want to share that I am obsessed with your book. I love it, and I have for the past year. And I read it almost a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago. And I was so greatly affected by its beauty, its insight, and most importantly, the kindness in the book. I came to the book in a different place, a place of grief, because I had just lost my son. And I almost couldn't read the book when I came to the part where Theo had lost his daughter. And I put the book down and couldn't read anymore. But I persevered and went through, and it was, it gave me great comfort. But my question is, help me understand the meaning of the river in the book. Why is it so important that Theo sat in front of a river and looked west? Because that's where I am every single day of my life. I live on a river and I face west and I see the beauty and I can feel the motion of the river, and it gives me peace, even though it's churning, like right now when it's cold and it churns, but it gives me great comfort. And I just need to know why was the river so important in this book?
Yeah, thank you. Lonnie, thank you for reading the book, for getting through it. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sorry for your loss. Theo was a man himself very much in touch with sadness, as he reckoned late in the book when he said he was a veteran of that himself. And my guess is that most of us in the room tonight have had some loss. I think maybe the strongest response that I've gotten to the book is from people who resonate with that chapter when Theo loses his daughter, and then also the one on sadness, where Theo basically tells Asher, none of us gets through this life without a generous dose of sadness. Can I share a little footnote with you as well? I was with the artist a couple of weeks ago for supper, and he showed me 5 portraits that he had just finished. And the story that he told me was that 5 mothers from Vermont had made the very, very long trip from Vermont to Columbus. And the common thread among them was that they had all lost a child, including one as young as 9. And they came to the coffee shop. It felt like a pilgrimage, I think, of sorts for them. And then they contacted the artist and had him do portraits of each of their 5 children. But I'm really grateful that the story resonates with all of us who have lost someone who we love. And believe me, I'm in that club with you.
Yeah.
So why the right? Yeah. So why the river? I think for starters, it's kind of that old Jungian idea that we have a collective subconscious, and there's something about certain elements in creation. There are things about certain formations that seem to resonate with all of us. So the river as a metaphor for so many things, the perpetuity of life. And Theo talks about, the quality of the river, the way that it does move, the dance of the river, the force that it has, but the gentleness at the same time. And I knew that there was going to be death in the story. But the fact that the river still flows, and there's this possibility that some of the Douro River somehow weaves its way into the Oxbow River. and shows this coalescence of different lives coming together, which is what Theo's story was all about. In some sense, I think you could make the argument that Theo was a river. And in the prologue to the book, you might remember, it says that he became a vortex, which is like a whirlpool in the river. And he was just kind of bringing us all in the wake of his own life. And I think that maybe we have that same power to do that with one another, to pull each other along to hope and to beauty and to kindness and to the things that we know are good and true.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll just share quickly two things that the river and the death of my son was so impactful, and so the book impacted me that way. But my son was like Ellen.
Oh,
he
wow.
was not a homeless man, but he was a free spirit, and he was a kind man, and he was a gypsy. So that part of the character development of Ellen, and then reading and thinking she was like Scotty, was really special to me.
I love
that. And the other thing, over the course of the year, I dealt with this sadness, but I had great joy come to my life, because here on the island, I met the most wonderful man, and we were married together. We were married on August the 9th of this year.
Congratulations.
And that is such joy. And I still keep your book and my feathers in front of on our bedside every day. And at the night before our wedding, our friend who was directing our wedding quoted from your book on page 129, unbeknownst to me. I had shared the book with everybody, but she read when Asher was speaking to Theo and said, I wonder, Theo, how do you know if something has love in it? And Theo nodded and said, that's the question, isn't it? And I'm not sure I know the answer, but God does. And she quoted that at the night before our wedding. So there's such a circle of love and kindness and so forth in your book that I wanted to share.
Thank you for all of that. I'm so happy for you and your husband.
Gordon.
He's
I heard Gordon. Yeah. Gordon, congratulations.
Okay, she gets a kiss.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love it. A little romance on Tuesday night. Hey, Lana, question for you. How did you get the book a year ago?
In Wilmington, the book club that I belonged to, which was my St. James Church group, shared it with me. And my sister read it and shared it with everybody. And so after I read it and we had the book club where we discussed your book, I shared this very same story. And everybody knew what had happened to me. And they were my bookends. That's what I call the ones that are supporting me. They were all my bookends. So it was from them to me and now to the island that I shared your book.
And the number of people.
And the number of people is, like Gordon is saying.
Oh gosh, that's so good.
It's amazing. So thank you for all of it.
Books were made by word of mouth.
Yeah.
Books were not made by anything else. We had many, many years of this happening. And in the last couple of years, it's been word of mouth, but it's not been word of mouth with books that are for people over the age of 40 in book clubs. Okay. I'm just going to be blunt here about what's happened. And we've had a lot of people with like YA books happening, whatever. This book and The Correspondent are two books that have been built by word of mouth of all of you that are on tonight, whether you're in the chat or whatever, going out and talking about a book. And it's really interesting that is alive and it is good and it is still working. And at a time where it's all about the internet, it's all about, TikTok, WhatsApp, this, that, the other thing. But we started 30 years on Go and AOL. I mean, believe me, I've been doing this a long time. And to sit there and see this building of word of mouth and us wanting to go out and talk about it, it's a huge thing. And I think it's a thing bringing a lot of people together. So I'm just, jumping out there and throwing that out.
Carol, can I tell you a story?
Sure, go for it.
So I got a text just a couple of days ago from a dear friend of mine. She's in Greenville, South Carolina. She might be in the room tonight with us, Gina. She's just gotten back from a trip to the UK, and she took 10 copies of Theo with her, and she bestowed them on people across the UK. And then she wrote me kind of a travel log of the 10 recipients of the book. And I thought, oh, to be a book in Gina's hand in the UK.
Exactly.
But I hear stories like that, a lot of people sharing. And the thing I think that makes me happiest about this whole thing is that people are enjoying it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's a bright book. It has light in it. And I get the sense that people are enjoying it. And I think there's a line in the book about making a deposit into the ledger of the world's gladness,
Yes.
something
Yes.
along those lines.
Yes.
And I love to think that someone passed the book to Lonnie, and Lonnie has shared it with Gordon, and someone else has read it. And, you know, it's just, there's been this well of gladness that we've all dipped into because of this story about the old man. And I'm just thankful I get to be just a little part of it.
The conduit of the story.
The conduit, yeah.
of the story.
The
Lonnie, thank you
river.
so much. And once again, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Lonnie.
you.
Okay, so we've got David Housel from Auburn, Alabama, wrote that it's been speculated that Columbus, Georgia is the location of Golden. And Betty Davis from Atlanta, Georgia, asked if you modeled the bookstore owner on Alex in Columbus. Is there truth in any of these ideas? And I don't know who Alex is, but obviously she did, and she didn't tell me which bookstore it was. So you're on. Tell us truth or
Yeah,
dare.
first of all, let me say to my dear friend David Housel, David, I love you. And thank you for your question. We still need to get together for lunch one day soon. So Columbus is, I mean, it was the template for the story. The setting of the book, as described in the text, is a good bit different than the downtown area of Columbus. But Columbus is an old southern city. It was chartered in 1828. It was built on a grid system, so you had streets and roads running north, south, east, west on a grid system with a large median in the downtown business district. And that is very familiar in the South, and my guess is across the country. And my hope was that by creating a setting that would be familiar to a lot of different places, someone, for instance, like David, or someone in Atlanta or Montgomery or Birmingham or Columbia or Nashville, would read the book and say, this could very easily be downtown Nashville. River, Old Town, grid system, that sort of thing. So Columbus was, because I know it best of any place in the world probably, that was the setting for the story. I did not know Alex, the owner of a little bookstore down in Columbus called Junie Bugs. He and I have met a couple of times. I don't know him well, but I would not want to hurt his feelings by saying that he is a curmudgeon like Tony is. So I'll have to punt on that one. But I love his little bookshop down on Broadway in Columbus, and it does look a lot like Tony's shop. Wicker chairs out on the sidewalk. The inventory is really fun to sort through. It's got a lot of character to it.
Well, I just really love that of the questions that I pulled, and believe me, there were hundreds of questions that David snuck in there, and I did not know who David was, and you just go, "Oh, there's David,"
Great guy.
I love that moment. They wanted to know a couple of people wanted to know there was such a violent scene for Theo to die, like why it was like that. And they also want to know it's this tragic way because he'd seen so much pain before falling to his death. He watched the pain on the street that he had tried so hard to obliterate. And he's watching that and he falls and that was his last view. And I think people were asking why that.
Yeah. You know, at a number of places when I was writing the story, I asked myself, is this credible? Are these scenes credible? And could there really be a man as good as Theo in the world? Could there really be moments like the ones that are described in the book? And every time I asked the question, the answer was yes. I think those are credible scenes. I think there are people like that. They may not have the resources that the old man from Portugal had, but I believe that there are lots of people like that in the world, maybe on a smaller scale. And so that violent, awful scene, maybe I carried it too far, but I wanted that to be a painful scene. I wanted, again, to make sure that we realize this story is grounded in the real world, and things like this happen all the time. I mean, look at the news today. Terrible things happen. And Theo, just because he was a nice man, because he was a man of faith, was not immune from any of that. And I really wanted the reader to feel kicked in the gut at that point in the story, not gratuitously. To me, I felt that it was a purposeful scene in the book, and it reminded us that if we are going to commit ourselves to lives of kindness and little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love, we will do it in the face of opposition, because there's a world out there that is just a mean, ugly place a lot of times.
Right.
So I hate that it might have taken enjoyment from the story away from anybody, but if I had to rewrite the scene, I think I would do it just like I did the first time.
Yeah, and the book had like, okay, so if you're reading the book, you're reading and you see how many pages are left. For me, I'm listening and I'm not really looking at how many chapters, okay?
Right.
I'm thinking the book is over and then again. And
Yeah.
I think that is what was really interesting, because I'm there like, okay, so this has ended. This is what's happened. And then wait a second. What happened? This man is a world-renowned artist.
Right.
Okay, whoa. And
Yeah.
then wait, the connection back to the town. I think that was coda at this point. That was
Yeah.
brilliant to put off. But I have to say, being an audio listener on the book, I didn't know there were like, this many more pages at the end. And I don't study the chapters. They go like, this is chapter 32. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking at that. So
Yeah.
I think that was something interesting. Did you always know you were going to do that towards the end of the book? That there was going to be a boom, boom?
I had some hunch of it. I wasn't exactly how I was going to do it. I was real concerned that I might have drug it out too long at the end. The letters, which I really enjoyed writing,
Mm-hmm.
the letter from Theo to Asher, and then the letter that Asher's mom had written to Theo. I really enjoyed the writing of that. And I just wanted to make sure I didn't make it too long, too wordy, too over the top. But I think pretty early in the writing process, as I figured the story out, I knew that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I had to make sure that I had Asher's mom in where was it, Madrid,
Right.
at the Prado, when Theo was teaching there. So I had to kind of make sure that all of that was woven together sequentially in the proper order. And then just kind of tied it all together there at the very end.
And it did. It absolutely did. But like I said, if you're listening to the audio, wait a second, we're not finished. Wait, we're not ending there.
That was
We're going
great.
to these letters. And I've got somebody, Lark from a small town in Oregon, had this question. As an attorney and judge in a small town, you know the balance of justice. Your book talks about the value of kindness and redemption, as well as the journey of life with losses. The character Theo chooses to find a way to redeem his relationship with his son. But why didn't you address that before the death if he really wanted to be redemptive and establish love in all its glory? And did you have a personal relationship to that part of the story? And that's kind of interesting. I love seeing the questions from the readers and seeing how they're interpreting different parts of the book.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Theo didn't know that he was going to die.
Yeah, very
So
true.
there is always the possibility, if he had not died, we could almost imagine that maybe he would have pulled back the mask before he passed away. He wrote the letter, assuming that he would die and Asher would only get that after his passing. But there was always that prospect, if Theo had not died, that I don't know if reconciliation is a revelation would have taken place. What was the other question, Carol?
Did you have a personal relationship to this part of the story?
No, not at all.
No,
Not
no.
at all. The one part of the story that I did have a very intimate connection with was the courtroom scene involving the little Guatemalan man.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was judge, there was actually a day I was in my office, and I handled minor criminal cases, and then probate cases, and then a potpourri of other legal matters in our small community. But there was a day that the deputies brought a young gentleman into my office. He was shackled. He was terrified. He was really frightened. And I can't remember what charge he had been picked up on. It was a minor thing. It may have just been a traffic accident, or not an accident, a traffic violation, a citation. So we disposed of that, and then I asked him if he would be willing to stay and just talk with me. And I had a translator there, and so maybe he felt like he had to, but he stayed behind, and we had a really pleasant conversation. And I asked him because he told me, he said, I was deported, and I've come back. And I said, well, I'm just curious, why did you come back with the risk of deportation being over you again? And this was all off the record. It was just a casual conversation. And he told me, he said, I've got a daughter who has cancer, and my wife is still here, and I'm a bricklayer up in a town north of where we live here. And he said there was no way I could stay away from my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I totally understood that. Mm-hmm. And I think that Kendrick in the story realized that. And to me, the dramatic high point really of the book is those couple of chapters about the courtroom when Derek and Kendrick and the little Guatemalan man and Lamisha all confront humanity in a really, to me, a really poignant way. But that actually happened. But he was not involved in an accident that caused any fatality. Right. But yeah, that happened in my court. And I had the gentleman's actual name in the book until the 11th hour and 59th minute. And then my better judgment said, you need to change his name just in case. So we changed the name. Yeah.
Just, all those different moments. Pam Coons from Lubbock, Texas asks, been curious to find out how you chose Asher's name. I'm wondering if it was a nod to Asher in Chaim Potok's book, My Name is Asher Lev.
It's a great book. Yes and no. I mean, I've read that book several times and love the book. The word Asher means happy. It is a biblical name, of course. And it means happy. And just anywhere that I could slip in some brightness. Remember when I was writing this book, what the climate of the culture was. I started writing it maybe 2019 or 20, something like that. And there's just been so much toxicity in the air in the last 10 years or so, that just anything I could do to slip in some brightness, I wanted to do. And I like that name, Asher. I like the name anyway.
Nice Asher. Yeah.
I've got some friends named Asher who I love, but when I remembered that it meant happiness, I thought, well, that might be nice to pin that on an artist. So there you have it.
Definitely be able to do that.
Yeah.
Sally F. Phillips from Temple, Texas says, if your readers only took away one inner shift in their read through Theo, what would you hope it is? One inner shift of what they're...
God, that's a great question. Thank you. I think that, let me use this word and then I'll unpack it. A shift toward incarnation. You might have noticed in the book that there is very, very little reference to technology.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Pierce's telephone at the Thanksgiving dinner, which was a huge impoliteness. And then there was another moment when he was on the bench when Theo was trying to do a bestowal, and Theo sang the Portuguese national anthem to run him off. But that was very deliberate on my part, because I fear in my own life, and maybe in culture at large these days, that we have become so drawn to screens and to mediated interaction with one another. I'm real thankful for tonight. This could only happen because of technology. Mm-hmm. But honestly, if I had my druthers, I would rather have 6,000 meals one at a time with everybody in the room. Mm-hmm. And so the shift would be that we would either not forget, or we would return to, or we would get better at being intentional about personal interaction with one another. Mm-hmm. A question that I've been kind of asking myself lately is, in light of AI and what we all either are curious about or afraid of concerning AI, what does it mean to be human? To me, that's kind of a really big existential question that we should be asking ourselves. And then I've been asking, how can fiction maybe facilitate a better perspective on what it means to be human? And maybe one thing we can do is just write about things that only humans can do, and sitting on a park bench and talking and crying together might be one of them.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, a shift toward that, toward a commitment to love people up close. I
Mhm.
wish I could love people in Minneapolis tonight. I can't.
Mhm.
I don't live in Minneapolis,
Mhm.
but I can love the Currans, and I can love the kids up at the elementary school, and I can love them in a way that allows me to hug them, to touch them, to have a meal with them, to see their faces, and I just think that that's something that something that I need to be reminded of. To love somebody well, you have to be close enough to touch them.
Yeah, and just come on over for dinner. Come on over for this and not make it a big deal.
Right,
Everything's a holiday. We just got finished with the holidays. Does
right,
this mean we're not going to do anything till Easter? Or we're not
right,
going to do anything till Valentine's Day? What are we going
right.
to do like in the time in between?
Yeah,
Um, Ann Luther from Edina, Minnesota. You love this across the country. I'm
I
not.
love this. Yes,
We were on
and thank
America
you. Yeah.
Online at the beginning. That's, I
Mhm.
think, where we got this started. Shared their book club led Theo of Golden last January. Turned out to be the all-time favorite book ever in the 25-year history of the book club.
Oh
They
my
have
gosh.
14 members, and the lowest rating was 9.5 out of 10.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she wanted us to know if you were going to take another character from the book and write on them, what would it be? And we've been talking about Ellen
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
Is that the only one that you've thought about taking in another direction, or is the one that you're there with now?
Yeah, first of all, Anne, thank you, and please tell your club thanks. I'm so honored. Um, yeah, so Ellen is the one definitely that I'm working on, and she might drive me to retirement. I might never write another book again as long as I live. I don't know, but if I get her to the finish line, there might well be some others. I really like Tony's character.
Okay.
I like him a lot, and then there's some others that I have thought about. But I think if when I finish Ellen, there's some other ideas that I have in mind. I'm starting to see book ideas everywhere I look. And so I'll probably leave Golden for a little while, but not before uh, I get Ellen finished. And then honestly, when I finish Ellen, the question will be, do I think the book is worthy of your time?
Mhm.
And if I read it and have some honest readers look at it with me and we conclude that it's not, then I will write a long letter of condolence and say that Ellen is no more. But
Or a
I'm
short
working really,
story.
really hard on it.
Or a short story of her. But I just want you to know that this is Miggs Murray from New Buffalo, Michigan, Barbara Kingston from Lafayette, Colorado, Patty Smith from Denton, Texas, Wendy Woolman from Baltimore, Maryland, Bev
Wow.
Porter from Holly Springs, and many others have asked. So I just want you to know
Oh,
that I
wow.
was keeping track. I was writing the names that were coming down with that question.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
there's where we're going with. I'm just looking forward to see if we've got any different questions because we do want to go to some that what's me call. I'm just looking through to see if okay, near the end of the book, this is from Michelle Madriga from San Ramon, California. Near the end, a woman arrives at Mr. Ponder's office with a letter. Of
Hmm.
all the characters and the rich backstories, why did you choose to leave her identity a mystery? It was a subject of considerable debate in my book club. I love
Yeah.
this debate in book club. My book
Yeah,
club's
I
got to
love
get more
that.
on debate. We got to be working on this, folks.
Yeah. So Michelle, I mean, in one sense, I mean, it's a mystery, and in another sense, we know exactly who that young lady is. That is Ellen's daughter, Willa Francesca. I might have been able to make that more clear if I had put the word Francesca in there with it. But if you'll go back earlier in the story, when Ellen has the child, Easter weekend in Charleston,
Mhm.
her boyfriend William is shot and killed. They have escaped, or they have somehow set themselves free from a psychiatric hospital, which they call the mental, and she gives birth to a little girl. And there is a very kind nurse and an understanding and kind-hearted policeman who allow her to hold the little girl, and then they cut a little locket of hair, which they put in a necklace, and Ellen wears that throughout the book. But at the end of the book, Willa shows up. Now, the real question, if there is a mystery, is who wrote that letter? Who wrote that letter that brought Willa to Mr. Ponder's office at the time that she got there? Now, she had no idea who Theo was, or that Theo had died, or that her mom was hurt. She didn't know anything. She just knew that she had been told to go and meet with this Mr. Ponder. But we know exactly who that woman is. She's a young woman named Willa Francesca, at least in Ellen's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just tell you as a teaser that as I'm working on Ellen, that character is definitely going to come back around in a really big way.
And that was something that came up somewhere. I've been reading through a lot. I think I ran through at least 100 or 150 pieces of email coming up with these questions of what I've written in. Somebody also, Laura Reed from Oakwood, Georgia, has got a good question. Did Theo tell Ponder that he knew that Asher was his son at the first meeting? Did he tell him, or was that he was just looking for someone? Like what happened there?
Yeah, that's a great question. We will never know, but we do know this, that Theo, we know first of all he was a very shrewd man,
Mm-hmm.
and he knew that he wanted to live in Mr. Ponder's apartment there. But he also felt out Mr. Ponder to make sure that he was a trustworthy counselor,
Mm-hmm.
a consultant. And when he finally went into the office, I mean, we can't be for sure what he told Mr. Ponder, but we can gather that he told him who he really was,
Mm-hmm.
why secrecy was important, and Theo also told Mr. Ponder, if you will look in your files, you will find a file from me.
Mm-hmm.
I was your client years and years ago when Asher's mom came back to the States.
Uh-huh.
You remember Theo was heartbroken and he tried to pursue her. And it is revealed that Mr. Ponder told Mrs. Gidley at one point, because Mrs. Gidley's thinking, why are you trusting this man? We don't even know him.
Right.
And Theo says, I know him. I know him. We have a file on him here. And the likelihood is that it was Mr. Ponder's father, quite possibly, who handled Theo's account back in whenever it was.
Back at the beginning, way back at the beginning.
So I mean, you know, we've kind of got these threads that are kind of they kind of dangle out there, but they really do resolve themselves.
So who else besides me? Can we see a quick show of hands who wants to go back and reread the book after the conversation tonight? Because we've learned so much. I'm going to give you Tom. I'm giving our look at this. The hands are going up. I'm going to give Tom Donati, our editorial director, a show of hands. Tom, we're going to go to Q&A from you in a couple of seconds. I'm going to do one more question. Theo of Golden from Becky. She said, it was deeply moving and thought-provoking. After reading it, I'm going to go back and mention this again. I went on to read your memoir, The Last Sweet Mile. I was struck by the kindness and intentionality you brought to your work and your interactions with others. I sent echoes of you and Theo. Could you share how your parents and upbringing shaped the love of people and the love of words that clearly are the influence showing up in your writing?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And thank you for honoring my mom and dad that way. My dad turned 98 just about a month ago.
Yeah.
My mom passed away, 5 or 6 years ago. You know, we were just kind of a normal middle-class American family that grew up in the 60s and the 70s. I was born in 1956. I like to describe my mom and dad with an Old Testament verse where it talks about loving mercy, doing justly, and walking humbly with one's God. That's kind of the way my mom and dad were. They taught us to work. They taught us manners. They expected us to be at least diligent students, if not good students. We played a lot. My dad's a forester, so I spent a lot of time outside. And even in this book, I think references and what I think is an obvious affection for nature, for birds, for trees, for those kinds of things, are the byproduct of being his son. But growing up around people very much like ourselves, and believe me, we are woefully, woefully imperfect. But my mom and dad, they were hardworking folk. We spent a lot of time together. We ate meals together. And I had a lot of good influences in my life, especially people who like to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
I had good teachers growing up. And I think at some point my mom and dad realized that I liked stories and words. That's why my dad especially encouraged me to go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
He thought I had a gift for gab and I like to write. But I cannot begin to say how grateful I am for my mom and dad. And I know better than anyone how flawed they were. But what a blessed man I am to have my mom and dad. Yeah.
Love
And
it.
my brother Gary, he was the subject of The Last Sweet
That's
Mile.
cool.
And people have asked me sometimes, was there a model for Theo as you wrote the book? The true answer is no. I just started creating a character, but as I began to work more and more on rounding out the character of Theo, I realized I am cloning my brother here.
Oh.
My brother was every bit at 55 when he died, the kind of soul that Theo was. And I'm sure that if my brother Gary had lived to 86, he would have been that kind of guy in spades. And so I took a lot of what I know about life and a lot of what I know about giving and loving people and reaching across every imaginable line to connect with others from my brother who died about 12 years ago now.
So sorry for your loss.
Yeah,
Big loss.
thank you.
Really, really big loss.
Yeah, thank you.
Tom, I bet you have been going through lots of questions from our readers. And we've had people out on YouTube tonight too. I mean, it's been a lot. So, Tom, what do you have?
Yes, we did receive many good questions. I will unfortunately have to narrow it down to a few, but we'll get to as many as we can. Jody asks, why were some characters changed by their interaction with Theo and some were not? Was that intentional?
Yeah, thank you, Jody. That's a great question. Again, I would just say that is verisimilitude. That is real life. People respond differently to the same the same stimulus sometimes. I do think, though, that most of the characters that I gave much attention to would have said that they were changed. I think the depth of his interaction with Ellen, and maybe the fact that I fleshed that friendship out a little bit more. They did the bike ride together. They went to the concert together. They did the Featherwood, those sorts of things. Maybe the mere fact that I highlighted that showed that there was a depth of change that was a little more profound in her case. But I think in reality, we all respond to kindness or to generosity different ways. People are at different places in life. And again, I think if everybody had responded the same way, and if it had been, these overwhelming encounters every time Theo did it, that just wouldn't have seemed very credible to me. The way that people responded to him. I'm not surprised that most people responded positively, but I think in the chapter where I kind of chronicled very quickly a number of the encounters, I'm pretty sure that I included in there that not everybody was, terribly impressed with Mr. Theo, but most were. Yeah, great question. Thank you for that.
We have a question from an anonymous attendee. I'm wondering about the use of the word ponder in so many places in your book. Ponder is the name of the financial advisor, but you also use it as a verb throughout the novel. Is it just a coincidence or is there meaning behind its use? It's a word that we rarely see these days.
Yeah. It's intentional. Mr. Ponder was a ponderous man. I wonder, though, if that's not one of the lost arts, the ability to ponder. I've been reading through the Sermon on the Mount lately, and it's interesting that Jesus uses the word consider, and that's a word that's used several times in the scripture. I think it means basically the same thing. In other words, live reflectively. Look at what's going on around us, and rather than take the popular view, ponder them for ourselves and try to reach some conclusions maybe of our own. And maybe that is directed to me more than anybody. I know that I tend to get caught up in the rat race. I tend to react rather than to think through things and then make decisions deliberately sometimes. And I just wonder sometimes, again, in the cultural moment, if we don't succumb to the loudest voices around us rather than think things through for ourselves. The fact that Theo spent a lot of time alone, that he pondered the bestowals. He spent time with the portraits. He wrote letters. He gave thought to what he was going to do with these folks. Suggests to me that he was a deliberate man. And I think that that is maybe the starting place for being wise, is thinking as deeply as we can.
Wendy asks, were the penny loafers created from real life experiences and people you were familiar with?
Yeah. So, Wendy, I think everybody in the book is either in whole or in part somebody that I know. Most of them are probably composites, but the penny loafers, gosh, I could probably drag 20 people right now out of my life that could have sat in those wicker chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good old boys, to use one of the old terms, frat boys. But they're real people for sure. I can't say that I could call any of them by name, but if somebody were to say, "Hey, let's make a movie out of this book and pick us 4 guys to sit in these chairs," I could have those people by lunchtime tomorrow, and they would fit the mold pretty good, pretty well.
Diane says your sensitivity to Ellen was especially touching and made me wonder if there was some lived experience or relationship of yours that shaped how Theo interacted with those who experienced life differently. The book was life-changing. Thank you.
Oh gosh, thank you for that. No one in particular. Again, I have worked over the years with different ministries that that minister to people that are homeless, unsheltered, whatever. I have a great fondness for them, and I'm fascinated by them. It's been interesting just in the last few weeks when I have been at the coffee shop. I have met some of our local folk who live by the river or under the bridge. And I'm surprised, maybe I shouldn't be, maybe this is a prejudice on my part, but I'm surprised sometimes at how articulate and how much depth they bring to their own stories. And I think the fact that they are so different than myself is something that attracts me to them. I know what I and people like myself think about things sometimes, how we view the world. And it does me good to hear some really different views than ones I'm familiar with. And it softens my heart.
Mm-hmm.
There, but for the grace of God, go I. And a lot of times the people that live in very desperate situations, I mean, it was just one bad choice or one bad event. And that's something that I'm trying to figure out about the Ellen character. How did she end up where she was? And I'm trying to do that as authentically as I can. So understanding, I've done a good bit of reading, and I've watched a good bit of film, YouTube and that sort of thing, about homelessness. In fact, there's a book, I think it was called Homeless,
Mm-hmm.
a heartbreaking story. But it opened my eyes just to the trauma and the tragedy of growing up the way that, some young folk have to grow up. Some of the young people that I work with now through foster care, it's the same sort of thing. But, I am, and hopefully all of us feel some inclination to care for the least, the last, and the lost. And in our culture, a lot of times that tends to be people who don't have a place to lay their head. And especially the last few nights, as cold as it's been. I can't say that I've done anything about it, but my heart has gone out to people who have had to deal with the weather and don't have a nice warm house to go to.
There's a terrific book called Seeking Shelter by Jeff Hobbs that came out last year. Picked it as
Okay.
one of my book reporter bets on. And what I really loved is this woman was working. She had a
Uh-huh.
job and what she was doing because her children really didn't have a place to live. And they were living in their car some nights.
Yeah.
And at 7 o'clock at night, I often think about how she's dialing 211 to try to figure out what motel they could live in that night. And it's not something that I, completely understand, but I look at 7 o'clock differently now
Yeah.
because
Oh,
of
that's
that.
so good. That's so good.
Just think about it. And it's one of those books that was on social issues. We don't even call things social justice these days. They're social issues that we have to
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
and explore a lot more. And it was very, very interesting to me because it was something that I really hadn't thought about. I had thought about. No, I can't say I hadn't thought about. I hadn't thought about how difficult it is to come to some of these solutions
Yeah.
and what cities are trying and what people are doing, and really the difficulty of what's going on. It's
Yeah.
fascinating,
You
absolutely
know
fascinating.
what I love about that, Carol, is that the book forced you to see 7 o'clock
Yes,
differently.
yes,
I
seven
mean,
o'clock.
I think a lot of times maybe we look at something around us, something on the big stage or something right under our feet, and I generalize it away.
Right.
But when somebody forces you to look at 7 o'clock,
Yes. Where's the
that
phone
kind of
ringing?
specificity, and maybe to pull this into the Theo book, uh, that a book would make us ask ourselves, why don't I know that person's eye color?
Right.
Well,
Right.
it might be because we don't look at their faces.
Right.
I had a girl tell me that last week. She read the book and she said the book has changed me. And I said, well, how? And she said, I try to know a person's eye color.
Right.
I finish a conversation now. And I thought that is so interesting. So to think of 7 o'clock
Hmm.
in
And,
a whole new light, that is the power of a book.
and
That's
what
the power of a
211
story.
means and what that's going to mean to somebody. To have to walk out of your child's a theater performance to dial 211 to figure out if you've got a place to sleep tonight. And you're going
Wow.
to miss their whole concert on stage because of that.
Wow.
Pretty
Wow.
powerful.
Wow.
Tom, I don't want to keep Theo too. I don't want to take Theo. I don't want to keep Alan too late tonight.
Mhm.
We have a few more, or where are we?
Yeah, we can definitely ask just a few more. Patricia wants to know if the funeral for Theo was difficult to write. She said that was my favorite part.
Mm. I know I cried a lot while I was writing it, and I'm not
Mhm.
an easy crier, but I take it as a litmus in some ways that a scene is working. While I was writing the book too, I was listening to movie soundtrack music a lot, and it was all instrumental, very lush, pretty music. And it was interesting how many times the sound of a song from that playlist would converge perfectly with a scene. And I don't know if that happened during the funeral scene, but I know that as I wrote it, um, I felt my own heart moved. Uh, I probably enjoyed that as much of any part of the book that I wrote. It's probably a somewhat curious honor that one has to speak at funerals, but I've had to do that a few times. And when you're given that honor, that awful responsibility, at least this is my experience, you tend to say to yourself, I do not want to waste this opportunity. And I think when I was writing that scene of the book, I really did want people to imagine they were in that room celebrating that life. And my hope was that by that point in the story, people would genuinely love this character. And he is just a character, but that they would love him and that that message would resonate with them in a really, really deep emotional way.
Sounds like.
Okay, so there were many people in the Q&A who wanted to know if there are any plans to make Theo of Golden into a movie. And Kimberly asks, if the book makes it to the big screen, who do you picture playing Theo?
Yeah, that who knows? I've got a wonderful agent up in New York. Gosh, she's been such a godsend, Suzanne Gluck with William Morris Endeavor, and they do have a quite robust movie division. And so I don't know. We're my niece who works with me now, and and another young lady named Kelly, and my sister Beth. We are Team Theo. We're still trying to figure out the book world. And I know that the movie world is extremely complicated and fraught with peril. Uh, so who knows whether it will become a movie or not? And I have no idea who I would cast. I mean, I'm not even going to say. But
One thing about it though is right now Hollywood likes one location and
yeah,
you've got it. You've
yeah,
got one town. So
yeah,
we do some flashbacks to Portugal and we do like a
yeah,
little shoot there, but we really have this town and
yeah,
just know they like little villages. They like little places where the
yeah,
cameras. So you've
yeah.
got something going in your direction.
I
I'll
wish I wish we could ask everybody who they would see as. I'll tell you some of the ones that have been tossed out there to me. Anthony Hopkins gets a lot of votes.
Mhm.
Tom Hanks has gotten a lot of votes. I can't think of others. I'm sure that I've had some others, but
I
those.
actually saw Tom Hanks, yeah, because they were talking about this in the chat earlier, and a lot of people were saying Tom Hanks. Someone just said Anthony Quinn, like right before you said it. Anthony
Yeah.
Hopkins.
I'll send you the chat. You can see
Yeah,
right now.
you'll receive the
They've been
chat.
suggesting all night. They've been all night.
Okay.
This has been a reverberating theme.
Okay.
So I'm watching the chat come up, and it's like everybody's just jumping in. It's really
Yeah. Okay. Great. Great.
there's a lot of conversation about it as the night's been going on. I'm just like every once in a while peeking down there. So it's fun to see what people are talking about.
And
Stay tuned on that one. Yeah.
yeah, you'll very much enjoy reading all of those responses. I did want to wrap it up with just a couple of comments that I saw in the Q&A. John Mark said, I bought about 15 books and gave them away for Christmas, complete with Theo's letters to my whole family. My incredible sister and mom told me about it. And I did see many things in the Q&A about, oh, I gave this book away as gifts. I mean, that was like a common theme throughout the Q&A. So I just wanted to point that out. And then another one, Beth said, my niece gave me a feather necklace, and someone in our book club made us bracelets that say, what would Theo do?
Oh.
And she said, and my husband and I went to Columbus. Now, I know we talked about this earlier, but I don't think we actually mentioned the name of the coffee shop.
Yeah.
What's the coffee shop?
Yeah. It's called Fountain City Coffee.
Okay.
Yeah. Fountain City Coffee.
In Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah, in Columbus, Georgia. Yeah, great place. Do I have time to thank everyone?
Yes, of course you do.
Absolutely.
Of course you do.
Yeah, Tom and Carol, you first of all, of course, for letting me be here tonight. Thank you for what you do too. I will have to confess that I was a stranger to your work until I started reading about you the last couple of days. But anyone who helps to get literature into the hands of people is my friend.
Oh.
And thank you for what you do. And I'm so honored that you would let me come tonight to be with this wonderful crowd. And again, I cannot thank you enough for honoring me by giving me your time to read the book. When I was a musician, I realized I was asking people to sit through a bunch of 3 or 4 minute songs, which is a pretty low investment, that you're asking anyone to make in an evening. And they always had the freedom to get up and leave if they didn't like the songs. But I have realized that in writing a novel, I am asking people, probably all of whom have plenty to do with their lives, to give me 10 or 12 hours of their precious human existence to read a story that I've written. And obviously, no one has any obligation to do that, but the fact that so many of you have shared your 10 hours with me is a gift that I cannot begin to put a price on or thank you for. So thank you so much. And as I do put in the books, my inscriptions, I am thankful for the Theo in you. And might we all spend our days filling the world with little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love. I am grateful for you. Thanks.
And we thank you so very much for joining us this evening. The time that you put into giving us to us tonight means absolutely so much. So thank you. It was a very, very special evening. We have recorded this. We will be doing this as a video and a podcast. I know some people could not get in tonight. There was directions to go directly to YouTube where we've been screening this because I've been watching to make sure it happened all night long. So we will be getting this out to everyone who registered with us. And we look forward to them sharing the book with more people as time goes on, because I think that we're just at the beginning. I don't think we're anywhere near where the success of this book is going to come, because there's so many people still talking about it with their book clubs and what's going on. So thrilled that we're going to be able to share a recording of this, probably be up later this week. I have our producer ready to put it together for us. And we've created this events page on the TBR. We have a site called tbrnetwork.com, which is our corporate site. And out there, we have all our programs that are coming up and what we have coming up. We know we have Patrick Ryan joining us to talk about Buckeye on Wednesday, March 25th at 8 o'clock. And that was a Book Reporter Bets on Selection as well. And sign up for that will be available tomorrow. And our next Bookaccino Live, we do something the second Wednesday of every month where we preview books that are coming out in the next 4 weeks and 2 months in advance. And we started this during COVID, and people actually liked us doing this, and we were kind of making it up as we went. So we've now been doing it for over 5 years. It'll be 6 years in July that we've been doing this to just share books that are coming out. So if you go out, we put everybody who was at this event on our events at Book Report Network newsletter. You can unsubscribe. It's perfectly okay. But we have more than 240 Book Reporter Talks to interviews that we've done, besides the book club events that we've done along the way, which tonight was our 40th, which I thought was pretty special. Our lead site is bookreporter.com, which is where we do book reviews. We do about 650 reviews a year. We have a site for book clubs called Reading Group Guides, and our corporate site is tbrnetwork.com. You can't make it more complicated. I will confess, I started this site with two men that we have spent years creating documentaries together. And I left the magazine where I was doing documentaries with them, and they said, let's go start this thing. And one of them named it the Book Report, the weekend that, like, he just named it the Book Report. And all of a sudden, every August, we would get notes from children asking us to please write their book report. And we got questions for years from people who would write things like, could you just give me these few questions about, and they would give us all these questions. Could you please get this to like Nicholas Sparks? And we're like, you want him to write your book report. So what we hope to do with our evening discussions is the adult version of let's just have a good book talk. And let's pretend that we all spent this evening together with Alan having a very special night. And we were able to really just, go back and forth and have a wonderful conversation. So I thank you. I hope I get to meet you in person at some point. We will invite you to something. We will invite you to do something live and in person.
Please do.
Thank you so very much.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Good night.
And to everybody else, thank you for joining us tonight. And Tom, thanks for being our voice of God this evening. We appreciate you as always.
Absolutely.
Okay,
and we so appreciate you, Alan, for doing this. Thank you so much.
All the best.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Right.
Okay, everybody else, next time. Till next time. Okay, so to everybody who I have gotten so many notes from people that did not go to the YouTube page. I am really sorry about that, folks. I thought that when I sent out the note last night, it was kind of clear. So if you have any friends that are really mad at us, please tell me that that's the reason we knew we were going to have a big crowd tonight. And that's the reason we set that up. And I've been monitoring it all night and it's been live. So I feel very, very badly for anybody who couldn't come in. We will make sure that we're doing the best we can we tried to just ask as many questions as we possibly could. It's something that's really important to us. It's not just about us at all. It's, as the questions I asked one, everything else was from readers. And so we hope that you join us in the future, and we'll, any upcoming webinars, people are asking me, what we will do is, I'm going to send a follow-up note to everybody who's signed up for this event. Everybody who signed up for this event will get a follow-up note later on this week that will tell you, here's the video, here's the podcast. Our podcast is available on all the podcast channels. Just give us a couple of days to get that produced and put together. And then you'll be able to get to see, everything that's going on. This was a longer presentation than we normally do. We did it because we knew that a lot of you were going to want to be able to talk about this with your book club, with your librarians, with friends, whatever. And we wanted to make sure it was a really big conversation where we covered a lot of topics. So we thank you for being with us for 2 hours this evening. It was not our plan to go this long, Tom. Of course, we were thinking an hour and 15 minutes, but I think that people were still.
This definitely warranted a longer discussion, and there were so many amazing questions. So thank you all for contributing and being so active in the chat. I mean, it was great. As I was monitoring the questions, taking a peek at the chat, all great comments, and we really do appreciate you sticking around with us for the full 2 hours.
Full 2 hours, and like I said, it will be available if you have any friends that are annoyed at me in the morning. I mean, I have so many emails and I don't go to bed until everybody's like got an answer. So I'm going to get my stock answer of like, this is what we did. I hope we communicated what was supposed to happen because it was very different from what's usually happened for us. And we knew when we hit capacity, just go to YouTube, but maybe I wasn't good enough at communicating that. I'll always take it on the fly. You know what I mean? It's always my fault.
And anybody who missed this will be able to see it as video, listen to it as a podcast. So that will be coming up by the end of this week. We'll have that available.
And we tried to get to as many questions, as many themes as we possibly could. So,
I mean, we literally could have been here for like 3 or 4 hours if we were, asking all of the questions
about what to
in the
do.
Q&A. A lot of topics had already been covered, but there were definitely, a lot of great questions.
So thank you guys for joining us. You'll find out, if you're new to us, you'll find out a lot about everything else of what we've done. You'll find out a lot of, because we've been sharing a lot of really fun things in the last years, and we will go on and do more because we just love doing it. Our podcast is called, Tom, refresh my mind. I'm out of brain cells right now. Book Reporter Talks To. Book Reporter Talks To is the one where I do author interviews. I do long form author interviews. Most of them are on for, usually they're on for at least an hour. I'll interview an author, 45 minutes to an hour. So they're very in-depth interviews. So I guess if everybody was yelling at me on Facebook, now I have to go out and deal with this. I don't like being yelled at, Tom. You know this. You know this, Tom. I don't like people unhappy. I really don't.
No, I'm sure there are many more people who are happy than unhappy.
Yeah, so we'll see what we do
after an event like this.
Yes. Yeah, it's a podcast. If you sign up for our Book Reporter newsletter, we'll send newsletter links at the end because a lot of people realize are new to us. This is kind of what we do on an ongoing basis. And we just try to connect readers with writers. And we started this 30 years ago with one site on AOL and have built out from there. So I'm glad you subscribed, and much more to come. So thank you for joining us this evening. Okay.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good one. Good night now.